On the line with us is Renee Smith. Good morning, Renee.
Good morning. I'm so glad I'm going to be talking about money and not politics.
Well, I'm always fond of saying money is political and politics is money, so it always works its way in one way or the other, but we'll try to keep it as much to the money side as we can. Now, you wear many hats. You are a speaker, you are a coach, you're a brand expert. You're an author, you're a TV hostess, you've done quite a bit. But today in particular, I'm really excited about talking about your role as an author. You've got something really exciting coming up.
I do. The national release of Self-Esteem for Dummies, which was a contract for me. It's not many people out there that have the opportunity to write and someone pays you for your opinion, to write your opinion for people to read and to grow from. So it's a huge opportunity for me, and I'm excited about its release, and I think it has a lot of really good information. This is my fourth book. This is a co-write, but I've written 3 books prior to this, and Rusty, I will tell you, I believe this is my best work yet.
That's great. Before we get started into the nitty-gritty, please give the listeners some information about how they can find you, because I think your website is wonderful. There's a lot of information, and I want to make sure people get an opportunity to have that link.
Absolutely. It's srenee.com. And when they go there, I do want them to know if they click on the Self-Esteem for Dummies book, they can download a chapter 19, which is managing your relationships at work. And all of us have been in a situation where we've had a difficult boss or a difficult person at work, or we've had to resolve issues, or we're a manager and we don't know what to do in dealing with a difficult employee. So, and even if they're not difficult, just relationship dynamics are difficult, period.
You said you don't want to be on the political side, but quite frankly, politics does come into play in the office, and it's about positioning and branding and the things that I want to talk about to you today about. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. But, interesting enough, I believe, though, that politics in the workplace or politics in your daily life is really about you becoming better. Because when you play politics, as we call it, you're actually maximizing who you are as a person. Why? Because you have to be diplomatic, you have to be kind, you have to be open, you have to be understanding. Those are just things that we should be doing anyway to improve who we are. So politics, in my mind, and this is how I teach it to people, because who wants to deal in politics in the workplace? It's a big complaint. Well, she or he got the promotion because of politics. But if we look at politics a little bit differently, I think that all of us will be able to agree that it's a great opportunity for all of us to grow and become better people.
I agree. Before we get into nitty-gritty, give us a little bit of background about you. I've had you on the show a couple times. We've talked about different things. Primarily, we talked about brand management. But tell us, how did you get to where you are today? Because you have a fascinating background.
Oh, wow. Thanks. Started out in corporate America as a marketing rep, and then for the Xerox Corporation, stayed there about a year, and then went into entertainment, was in entertainment for 10 years, worked with some of the biggest names in the business as a model and also as a television talk show host. I interviewed some of the biggest names in the world, actually, and then left the entertainment business after hosting and producing and being the spokesperson for Paramount in Philadelphia, and launched my own business. And those of you who are out there that have been entrepreneurs, you don't always hit the bullseye the first time. So I was one of those businesses that failed. But learned so much about that failure, and went back into the workplace and became a manager, assistant manager actually, in retail, and then said I was going to try it again, and started writing books and started speaking. And in the last 10 years, I've worked with over 75 clients, 75 corporate and nonprofit major companies, multi-billion-dollar companies actually, or across 9 industries. And also now I'm doing coaching with small business owners and individuals like you. and helping people to really get to a place of understanding their purpose, their passion, and look within and walk in it, and also the strategies for branding.
Branding is something we've had on the show, and it's amazing. You've done all that, and you're only 27 years old. I can't quite figure that how you got all that experience at such a young age, but fascinating background. You and again, you've been on the show before. We've talked about branding, and you have a great perspective on it, and great experience in helping people to understand that when people think, oh, branding, it's just for big companies. That's for Harley Davidsons and the IBMs of the world. But it goes down to the individual level.
Oh, it absolutely does. I mean, everyone, I often in workshops, I ask people how many people in here have a brand. And I may get, if there's 200 people in the room, maybe 10% of the people understand that they have a brand. And then I share with people, everyone has a brand. You may not know what it is, and because you don't know what it is, everyone else defines it for you. And so if people will look at themselves as a product and understand that a product has to produce a service, and when they understand that they have to know what their mission is, what their message is, and understand their value. And if they don't understand that, interesting enough, they're probably being ripped off. And what I mean by that is they are probably leaving money on the table if they are a business owner. And if they're an employee, they probably didn't negotiate their contract, their salary as high as they could, because they really don't understand the problem that they helped the company to solve. Thereby, they didn't package and position themselves well. And it's interesting because I've been working with the military recently, and as you know, the military is downsizing. And a lot of people in the military actually missed the boat on that. They have, tremendous background and experience and have supervised thousands of people, handled $1 million budgets, but how do you translate that so that the HR person sitting on the other side of the table or the VP on the other side of the table really understands the value of it in their language? So I really teach people how to re-communicate who they are and the value that they bring.
It's never too late for that. Some people are listening to the show today and saying, wow, I never thought of myself like that. What do I have to do to start? Where do they start?
Oh, they start by, one, understanding what their mission is. You have to know why you're on the planet. Today, companies aren't looking at as much as you mirroring me. When I was growing up, and probably Rusty, you can agree with this, and a lot of your listeners, we were taught to mirror the person we were going to work for.
You know what? That's a great point, and it's a great stopping point because we've got to pay some bills. There's some ads coming up. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Renee Smith about branding, about her new book, Self-Esteem for Dummies, and learn how we can develop a brand for ourselves. We'll be right back. People's Politics in Delaware. I am your host this morning, Rusty Giles from Morris Capital Advisors. And on the line with us is brand manager, author, hostess, and everything, all-around good person, Renee Smith. Welcome back, Renee.
Thank you, Rusty. Good to be here.
We were talking a little bit about personal branding and how we do that and how you develop that for yourself, whether you intentionally do it or unintentionally do it. It's something that we all have. And I was asking in the last segment, how does someone go about that process if they're sitting there saying, I never thought of myself that I have a brand? How do they do that?
Absolutely. Well, they have to start with understanding their mission, like why are they here? And oftentimes when I ask people that question in a workshop setting, they'll say, well, I'm here because I want to sell more products because they're in sales, but I don't mean why you're here at the company. Why are you here on the planet? What are you here to do? What impact are you here to make? It starts there because once you understand why you're here, then you can better define your messaging, how you show up in the world. What do you convey to people that you do and what value it brings to them? And then you can better assess your value and the value that you bring to individuals as well as corporations. one of the things that a lot of times people don't understand, we're no longer mirroring people that we work for. We have to come to the table with our innovation, being on top of our game, knowing and coming up with innovative ways of doing things. We have to have our intellectual property, what we know, and what everyone else needs to know that we know. And then third, it's important that we understand our value proposition, which is how we can benefit the company or the individual if you're an entrepreneur. So putting all those things in place will begin the process. And of course, sometimes you need a coach, because a coach can actually ask you the very specific questions that help you to dig and really find a true answer to a lot of these questions and more.
How do you do that? Because I know you're a personal coach for individuals, entrepreneurs in particular. And how does that work? How do you work with someone on that basis?
Well, they pick up the phone, they call me, 1-888-588-0423, toll-free number, and I actually assess. I listen to really what's going on. What are their challenges? Are they likable enough? Because people buy from people they like. Do they have a marketable message where people immediately say, I need that? Are they good listeners? That could be an issue that they're confronted with. So there are a lot of different reasons why people don't go to the next level, but I will share this with you. In 2014, I coached about 50 small business owners. And I'll tell you something that's consistent in every single person, that there's this inkling of doubt, of uncertainty as to whether or not they bring the value that they say they do. And I am totally amazed at I have coached people who are MIT grads. I've worked with people who are Harvard grads. So it doesn't matter how educated you are. It doesn't matter how much money you've made in the past. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are in terms of having your own software, computer company. I've learned that people have a doubt about their capacity to rise to the occasion and be liked and valued for what they bring to the table. And that's what I work with them on. Because once you really understand that piece, that's where you can step up and into your power.
Mm-hmm. The other books that you have written, I know that they touch on all of that. What are the other books so that our listeners can go to your website and check them out as well?
Absolutely. I've written There's More Inside, which is the foundation for building confidence. The second book is The Bridge to Your Brand, Like Building Marketability Credibility, which is really the book that guides you through that process. And then the third book is actually a book of prayers called Our Heart's Wonder, Prayers to Heal Your Heart and Calm Your Soul. That book was written because my sister had an aneurysm rupture in her brain, and I prayed prayers every day, and she walked out of that hospital.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
amazing. You've been kind enough to send me some over the internet, and had a chance to read some, and it's wonderful. And I did read your the one chapter from Self-Esteem for Dummies, which I found to be very interesting. So pulling all that together, working with business, because I think it's really important. The folks, there are a number of listeners to this program who are small businesses, entrepreneurs who do need that outside counsel. When you're a small business, you just don't have access to a lot of variety in terms of input and direction. And that's one of the things as a small business person, you fall into that kind of that pit of, it's just me. And you need that outside influence. You need someone to be able to make you think beyond where you are. And many times we need to bring somebody in to help us do that. And that's very, very important. We get caught up in the minutia all the time, and we don't get a chance to look outside that.
You are exactly right. And I will tell you that I did a 30-minute consult with a lady who had her own business, and literally that was just her consult, not her. I'm mentoring her now for an entire year, so she bought a mentorship package. I gave her a 30-minute coaching call, just talked her through some things. She went out and she spoke, and she doubled her income. Doubled.
You ought to do this on a profit-sharing basis.
You're exactly right. But those are the kinds of results, signing contracts. There was a woman who was out of work for 30 days, And so she called me, revamped everything. Within 2 weeks, she was interviewing for a VP position, and she was hired within 30 days. So it's really about the mission, the message, being clear, knowing how to communicate. And you are exactly right, Rusty. One of the challenges, it's very difficult for us to see ourselves and the value that we bring because we're in the picture. But when you have somebody who's able to step back and then look and see and hear, because I'm a listener, that's what I do for a living, is really listen for the value that you bring. It's not just skill sets. It's beyond that. It's all the things you have experienced over the course of your life that help you to bring real value to the table. And that's really also what self-esteem, it's funny, it's called self-esteem for dummies, but I actually think it should be called self-esteem for smart people. But they've done a good job. They are the world's best-selling reference brand, but they've done a good job. And here's why I say that. Because the book, I actually wrote 12 of the chapters. There's a co-author. But what I really, the perspective that I take it is how self-esteem impacts how you stand in front of people and talk, how you manage relationships at work, how you fall in love or write your love story, how you reach your goals, moving beyond your fears. Because as I mentioned, everybody has a doubt or a fear or an uncertainty. How do you move behind it? But you have to get to the core of it before you can move beyond it. And so that whole section, 12 chapters, is really based on how do you elevate and get to a place of awareness and confidence and courage to walk into your purpose and passion and to get paid doing it.
And those I say disciplines, but the way of you look at yourself, doesn't it just apply to your work situation? I mean, it applies to family, it applies to your social network, it applies to church, it can apply to anything.
You're exactly right. There's a chapter called Improving Your Personal Relationships, because how you see yourself. I have a really quick story. I hope I can set this up very quickly.
Minute and a half.
A minute and a half. Okay, let's do it in 15.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm at an event, and a husband and wife, I'm talking to the wife, the husband walks over, and I include him in the conversation. Oh, we're talking about self-esteem, and he tells his wife, oh, you need that. So they kind of get into this little tit for tat. So we're sitting at the table, and we're eating, and all of a sudden he goes to the table to get whatever he wanted to get. He comes back with nothing. And so he says, there's sweet potato pie up there, but it's not cut. And so he says it again. I wasn't getting sweet potato pie. And so eventually, fast forwarding, he says, I want a piece of sweet potato pie. Go up and get my sweet potato pie. And he says this to his wife. What was clear to me in that is that the reason why she was having problems at work, which was the discussion we were talking about in terms of her self-esteem, is she has problems at home. So you are exactly right. How you're treated at home is how you show up at work, and how you're treated at work is how you show up at home. And we have to be mindful that it's all integrated.
Renee, we're at the time. We got to cut out.
Okay.
ehre.com. Self-Esteem for Dummies. Look at the website. Contact her if you have any questions. Make sure you go out and buy the book. You're going to be better off for it.